power's even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the business is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind. Caress the mind and question justify. With you and God in time, I best align.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days and midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest artists. I see it in the waters, I see it in our daughters. They could be bridges that know no borders. For so long, them folk tried to ignore us, so we got the ballot boxes to vote for us. Peace to Stacey and the people of Georgia, who galvanized so that we can move forward. Steps are ordered with the presence of mind. Everything's more beautiful in time.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and White House correspondent, joining you live from New York City today. I'm in touch, so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, D-R-N-I-I-Q, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast, the only podcast that is A More Perfect Union, produced by KBLA Talk 1580. It's the only radio station, Black radio station west of the Mississippi, producing A More Perfect Union. And so be sure to support. Last but not least, speaking of showing your support, we would appreciate you acting on our invitation to come out and celebrate our 4th anniversary events. That's right, our KBLA Talk 1580 4th anniversary events are fast approaching. And seating at all 4, count them, 4 of our special events is getting tight. And so if you haven't already, we want to encourage you to register at our KBLA1580.com website. And if not, let me encourage you to just stop what you're doing right now. Let's just make it really simple. Stop what you're doing right now. Go ahead, log on your phone, on your laptop, on your iPad, whatever it is, because you don't want to be left out. It's our 4th anniversary, and we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to celebrate with you. And if you are planning to join us for our 4th anniversary celebration and barbecue on the Juneteenth holiday, might I add, we're asking everyone to bring a food gift card of any amount for the victims of the Altadena wildfire. Grocery store chain, restaurant gift card, whatever it is, we're grateful for whatever you bring to help the families that are still displaced by the wildfires, and particularly in Altadena. And so go to our KBLA1580.com website right now and sign up for the events that you want to attend. All of our anniversary events are free, but remember, seating is limited. So thanks in advance for signing up. Now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And kicking off our leadoff story, Senator Cory Booker today had something to say about California Senator Alex Padilla being really assaulted, I would say, and forcibly removed from a Department of Homeland Security press conference today. Take a listen to what Senator Cory Booker had to say about the matter.
If you could make Alex Padilla forcibly kneel before this executive, when does it stop? He's a United States senator. And if you could force him to kneel to his knees violently, when does it stop? What does it say to other Americans who want to speak up? What does it say to other Americans that want to exercise their constitutional duty? What does it say to other Americans this weekend when they want to peacefully protest? What does it say to other Americans from humble backgrounds who know poverty? That if a United States senator who stands up to do his job can be made to heel, driven to his knees, violently handcuffed, what does it say? What message does it send? Everybody in this body should see that this is a crossroads. They treated a member of the United States Senate violently after he identified himself, dragged him out of a room, threw him upon the ground, and put him in handcuffs. Every member of this body should object to that. Why? Because the statement was that he was disrespectful. That is unacceptable. That is offensive. That is un-American. When you drive a man to his knees in the United States of America, that is wrong, that is wrong, that is wrong. This is a test. This is a crossroads. This is a day in which the character of this body will be defined.
That was Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, not mincing words there, really summing up so much of what we are hearing from elected officials from Capitol Hill and all across the country. NBC News reporting that Senator Alex Padilla is forcibly removed from the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's news conference in Los Angeles. Senator Padilla was forcibly removed from a news conference in LA today after he tried to question Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem during this news conference related to immigration. He said, quotes, "I am Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary." And that prompted several men that were dressed in plain clothes to physically push him out of the room. A top FBI official later said that Bureau personnel and Secret Service agents were involved in the senator's removal. Padilla's office shared a video of the incident, which has seemed to be going viral. The video shows Padilla being taken into a hallway outside and pushed face forward onto the ground as officers with FBI identifying vests told the senator to put his hands behind his back. The officers then handcuffed him. They handcuffed a sitting United States senator. President Trump's immigration policies and the administration's handling of demonstrations against those policies have sparked an outcry in recent days. And after protesters clashed with officers from ICE in LA just this past Friday, the president deployed members of the National Guard and later the Marines to assist local law enforcement. Dozens of demonstrations have taken place across the country in the days that followed. And so that context is really important. Speaking to reporters late today, Senator Padilla said that he was receiving a briefing from military officials when he learned that Secretary Noem was in the same building, and he decided to join her briefing. He said, quotes, "I was there peacefully." Quotes, "At one point I had a question, and so I began to ask a question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground, and I was handcuffed." He added that, quotes, "If this is how the administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, what they're doing to cooks, what they're doing to day laborers out in Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country. And so that is one of the biggest trending news stories at the moment. And in our second hour, we'll be talking with civil rights attorney Todd Belcourt to get his hot take and reaction to one of today's biggest stories. But in other news, Trump plans to phase out FEMA. Y'all hear about this? The Associated Press reporting that President Trump's plan to begin phasing out the federal agency that responds to disasters after the 2025 hurricane season is likely to put more responsibility on states to provide services following increasingly frequent and expansive climate disasters. We'll be digging beyond these biggest headlines, but when we come forward, take a jaunt to the bookstore to pick up a new book. It's called How to Survive Against the Odds, Tales and Tips for Animal Attacks and Natural Disasters. I'll be joined by Mike Corey, host of the popular podcast Against the Odds. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God.
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this.
Let's get it on.
On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, talk about.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There will be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Flip the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is resilience in the face of chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DePrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA.
Love you. Love you.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds. Everyone's on them. If you're a 40-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term life insurance may only cost you about $100 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-352-9239. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To build $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-352-9239. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-352-9239. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. For affordable term life insurance, call 800-352-9239. 800-352-9239.
Hit me! National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai and delighted to be in conversation with Mike Corey. He's the host of Against the Odds podcast, and he's here promoting his new project, How to Survive Against the Odds, Tales and Tips for Animal Attacks and Natural Disasters. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, man. Good to meet you.
It's good to meet you. When I first learned about your project, it made me think about a number of pet owners who, in a nanosecond, had to think fast and act fast to protect their pets when the LA wildfires hit.
Right.
Talk to us about what inspired you to put together this project.
Right. So we have a podcast called Against the Odds, and there we tell true survival stories of people who rose to the occasion against the odds and survived. And in the podcast, it's super fun to tell these stories because, again, they're real and it shows what human beings are capable of. With the podcast, it's mostly telling the stories and often meeting some of the people who were involved in the survival stories. But with the book, what we did is we took the podcast, condensed about 15 of the stories, and then kind of went over what they did well in the survival scenarios, what they didn't do so well, the choices they made, and consulted experts and doctors and physicians, all sorts of people, to give you actionable tips and advice, and go over what to do if you find yourself in a scenario. I mean, adventures can happen all over the world. Like you can be traveling in the Amazon and be lost in the jungle, which we cover in the book. But sometimes adventures lands on your lap. You're driving to work on a Tuesday, and all of a sudden there's a wildfire or whatever it be, and it's just a good practical book about what to do in those scenarios. Because really, the number one killer out there is just panic, not knowing what to do, and just finding yourself panicking, letting fear take over, and then not being able to make the right decisions.
I think that's such a really good point. That panic is in the room, right? Yeah. Even when you find yourself in a situation that you're overwhelmed by. Talk to us a little bit about your personal experience with having to survive a situation. I would imagine that this isn't just a result of interviews that you've done, but this is a result of an experience that you've had.
Or many. So I've been a professional adventurer now for about 15 years. It all started with a YouTube channel. And
a professional who?
Adventurer, my man.
I didn't even know that was a job.
Yeah, and there's some interesting job hazards you find yourself in sometimes. So I've been to about 80 countries or so doing this job, and have been lost in the jungle, have been stuck in an earthquake, have been attacked by a snake, have seen plenty of sharks. And so using those real life scenarios, we got together with my other co-host for the podcast and some other people and made this book where, for me, I can speak a lot from my firsthand experience. But again, it's all knowledge. It's like knowledge is the antidote to fear. And if you know what to do in these scenarios, you can get rid of that fear and that panic, and you can do amazing things. Human beings are incredible creatures. We are weapons of mass adaptation. We literally can overcome the odds. We're a tool, we're a machine, but we just never find ourselves in those scenarios. And so the average person doesn't know what they're capable of. But the book and the podcast tell all sorts of stories about what we're actually capable of.
But Mike, I got to ask you, as a professional adventurer, I'm really intrigued by that because I've never talked to or met a professional adventurer before. There are a lot of people that find themselves in situations where, oh my gosh, I've got to survive. Then there are those folks who seek out situations where they're going to have to survive those.
Yeah.
How do you weigh your taste for adventure with, wanting to make sure that, your family doesn't have to worry about you, your friends don't have to worry about you, people that love you don't have to worry about you. How do you weigh those two?
Well, I don't want to find myself in these scenarios. I'm not out there like a thrill seeker. And I think a lot of people who are these daredevils or, again, professional adventurers we're not looking for risk. We over prepare quite often because 90% of the time, if you have everything you need and you've thought about everything that can happen, you have the knowledge, then you're going to show up prepared, and these aren't going to happen, right? But then the odd chance, bad luck, whatever it be, you can find yourselves in these scenarios. But I would consider myself very risk adverse, and that's probably why I'm still around, and also probably why things turn out in my favor for the most part. People who seem to take a lot of risks, generally, if it's their job, are pretty risk adverse, and then I'll do all the mitigation beforehand.
Wow, that's really something. You are really something. And so, talk to us about, let's talk about some of the stories of folks who are featured in the book that obviously riffs off of the podcast. I mentioned the LA wildfires. Was there anyone that you featured, that was, escaping a similar situation?
Yeah, we told a story about Anna Dice, and she was involved in the Paradise wildfires. And we told her story on the podcast. And the cool thing about the podcast too is we first of all, we voice act the whole thing. And so what that means is that we're saying the things that we thought were said or we're told were said. And then we add the actual sound effects and all the texture. So when you're listening, you often feel like you could be in a wildfire, or it's a very immersive experience. And in the case of the book, we distill that down, and then it's like what to do in these scenarios. And we go through like all these tips and things for experts. So for example, in the case of a fire, one of the main things there is, are you stuck in a house or are you stuck in a city? And you might have an escape plan, but if everyone has the same escape plan, it's going to be gridlock and you're not going anywhere. So having a few different ways out of the city, because it could be a traffic jam, or maybe the road could be blocked because of fire. But also on top of that, we go over some of like the physiology and the science behind fire. Like, for example, one thing that some people might not know is that air is 21% oxygen, and the rest is like nitrogen and other gases. So the air we breathe actually is only 21% oxygen, but we're used to it. But then at 9% oxygen in that air, when it's being consumed by a fire, because fire also eats the air, you lose consciousness at about 9%, and then you die at about 6%. And smoke inhalation is one of the main killers, not necessarily dying of the flames. And there's 3 different kinds of smoke, right? There's smoke. Well, smoke has 3 components. There's actual like particulate matter, things that have burned. The ash gets in your lungs, and it coats your lungs, and you can't breathe anymore. And so whether it be a volcano up in like Washington or a wildfire in California, that's a big problem if you can't breathe. And then on top of that, things that are burning, cars, houses, that release toxins, and then all of the other gases from that fire makes, like carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, you can suffocate from those too. So smoke actually is it's one of the main killers that we don't really think about when we think about fires. And so going over and understanding all those bits and pieces, I love that stuff, man. As someone who's deeply curious, and I'm sure your listeners are too, just understanding how things work really help you get a feel for what the real dangers are, and then you feel more equipped. And I think the more you can understand this big, beautiful world that you're in, you just appreciate it more, and you love it more, and you feel less fear walking through life, knowing, how the tides work, or, why the sun rises in the morning, or why the leaves are green. Just being able to have a curious attitude towards life is really what this book is based on.
Wow, that is incredible. And, I did not know that smoke was that dynamic of a challenge for people. I mean, certainly we've heard of folks who have died from smoke inhalation, but thank you for pointing out, that under 9% of oxygen, you're in trouble. Talk to us about how the Black community, for example, may be a bit more susceptible to some of these challenges, where the odds may be stacked against us for any particular reason, when it comes to being in a survival situation, whether it's related to fires or otherwise.
Well, one interesting thing that I saw recently is that generally, if we rule out like panic, for example, the Black community does a bit of a better job surviving. And I think it's because just the genetics there are pretty hard tested over time. And so, but again, like if you haven't been exposed to a lot in your life and you haven't learned a lot, then panic is one of the main things. And so just making sure that if you can get over that panic and you know what to do, and let's say you're black, like these things go in your favor. Like there's lots of stories where black people are better survivors than white people in a lot of survival scenarios, just because they're built different, man. Look at sports, for example. You know what I mean? Like they're built different. They're built tougher, they're built stronger a lot of the time, and that can be your advantage, honestly, in a lot of survival scenarios.
More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai on KBLA Talk 1580.
Would be such a big curiosity, hope, and a
I'm
big
Amber
heavy
Payton with
package
BIN
in your
News
life
Now.
raft.
About
You can sink
700
that down and
Marines
stay in
have
one
been sent
spot.
to Los Angeles to support the National Guard, but are not on the streets yet. They're expected to join by tomorrow.
I posit that maybe we are part of a national experiment to determine how far the federal government can go.
Black Mayor Karen Bass reported 200 arrests overnight and says the White House is out of line. R. Kelly's lawyers are asking President Trump to free him, claiming a neo-Nazi gang member tried to kill him in prison. They say his life is in danger and want him moved to home detention. Kelly is serving 30 years for racketeering and sex trafficking. And starting January 1st, Oregon Health Plan patients with severe illnesses like sickle cell disease will get access to gene therapies. The state joined a federal effort to lower costs. Sickle cell mostly affects Black and Hispanic people, with over half on Medicaid. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Santa Monica slowing 10 eastbound, leaving Cloverfield all the way to the 5 in Boyle Heights. Tough on the 5 in Irvine, northbound slowing from the 133 all the way to Harbor in Anaheim. Anaheim, 91 eastbound, delays at Kramer-Glassell, taking you ahead to Green River. And the Cajon Pass, 15 northbound, it's starting to fill in at the 215 merge to the 138.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Uh-oh. She's looking at the cigarettes, but she just grabs the gum off the counter. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Chargers signed veteran linebacker Khalil Mack to a one-year contract worth $18 million. The 34-year-old Mack is coming back for his 12th NFL season, his fourth with the Chargers. One of the reasons Mack wanted to re-sign with the Chargers is to hopefully improve his playoff record. For all that Mack has accomplished in the NFL, including Defensive Player of the Year in 2016, he has never won a playoff game. The 9-time Pro Bowler is 0-5 in the playoffs. The main agenda item for the Oklahoma City Thunder heading into Game 4 Friday night is making Shai Gilgeous-Alexander more productive in the fourth quarter. The NBA MVP had only one basket and 3 attempts in the fourth quarter Wednesday night and no assists. Shutting down SGA was a key factor in Indiana's victory in Game 2. The Pacers take a 2-1 lead into Game 4 in Indianapolis. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates Pastor and Mrs. William Sachs Epps on their retirement from stewardship at the historic Second Baptist Church. Dr. Epps has faithfully served Second Baptist as its senior pastor for 37 years. What a legacy of love and leadership. Pastor and Mrs. Epps will be honored at a luncheon on Saturday, July 26, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Sheraton Universal Hotel in Universal City, and you're invited to attend. Noted scholar Dr. Michael Eric Dyson is the keynote speaker. For ticket information, please contact epsretirement@gmail.com or call 213-399-2103. That's epsretirement@gmail.com or call 213-399-2103. To Pastor Epps and First Lady Epps, congratulations from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Corte, and he is Mike Corey, host of Against the Odds podcast. If you haven't already, you may want to go out and get his book, How to Survive Against the Odds, Tales and Tips for Animal Attacks and Natural Disasters. I'm calling this sort of a required guide that we should all have within reach. You never know when you're going to find yourself in a situation where maybe you're adrift at sea or mauled by a bear or buried by an earthquake. And speaking of earthquakes, Mike, our home station is located in Los Angeles, where we know the threat of earthquakes. It just looms large. You know, we're in earthquake country. In the book, you talk about how to survive the initial crush and maintain your sanity if trapped under the rubble and find yourself hungry all at once. Talk to us about some of the scenarios around being buried by an earthquake in your new book.
This one's a bit close to my heart because in 2017, I was traveling in Mexico City and there was a really bad earthquake, horrific earthquake, about 7 or so on the Richter scale. And I was living in the epicenter. And I remember being on a call just like this one. All of a sudden, the call dropped, the building shook, and like, was that an earthquake? And then all of a sudden, 3 seconds later, the whole room was shaking like 2 feet by 2 feet. And I tell you, running and moving anywhere was very difficult because the whole floor was moving underneath your feet. And we were in a modern building, big concrete walls, and that was good. It was safe, but on our block, 3 or 4 different buildings completely collapsed, and people died inside. And it was so wild to live through that. It was post-apocalyptic. There was cell phone service was down. There was explosions in the distance as different factories broke down, helicopters, sirens. And in those scenarios, it's funny because an earthquake is one of those disasters where if you're having a picnic in a field, life's breezy, enjoy the ride. But if you're in a city, especially one that maybe the buildings aren't up to code, it can be a real problem. And if you're in a building and it's modern, you don't want to run outside necessarily because that's where a lot of hazards can be. A lot of those earthquake zones, but a lot of it's acting fast. So if you're in a modern building, there's not too much to worry about exactly because big concrete walls. If there is an emergency escape route where there's a designated zone, go there, but that you don't have the luxury of that in all places. But if you're in a building and you start to see the foundations or the walls crack, or then you want to get out as soon as possible because the main thing here is just falling debris, and getting stuck underneath something is how a lot of people perish. So if you have a room in your house that's particularly sturdy and there's no place to go outside, if you have any like table or something again sturdy to go underneath to protect yourself from the falling debris, that's your best bet. But hopefully you never find yourself there because it's a tricky one.
And that's part of the reason why growing up in California, whenever we would have to do earthquake drills in school, they were duck and cover drills, right. Get under a desk, something that's going to protect you from any falling debris. A few months ago, I had a survivor of the Oklahoma City bombing as a guest on the show, promoting a special that they did on Hulu. And one of the things that Amy said to me that I've never forgotten was that when the bombing happened, she actually fell 3 floors, and she was buried in rubble.
Wow.
And she was there for hours. She didn't know if she was going to survive it, and then they found her, and then there was some concern that there might be another bomb, right? And so they had to leave her, right? And so, Mike, talk to us about mindset, because I was blown away that Amy was able to remain wrapped in her right mind, to have to endure all that. But it's one thing, to physically do this or that in order to survive. It's another thing to access sort of a next level of consciousness, to get your mind sort of clear enough and focused enough to be able to do the things that you need to do to survive.
Yeah. And these feelings like fear and panic, like we say panic kills, and it does, but also your body does a lot of wonderful things to be able to prepare you, like with adrenaline and a lot of the hormones in your body. And we have all these amazing adaptations. So one that comes to mind is something called disassociation, which is a fear response, but you remove almost like your body and your mind separate. So it's almost like you're living a video game character, or you feel like you're watching a movie, and that allows you to make the right decisions without the cloud of fear and panic. And those scenarios, you might think that you wouldn't know what to do, but there's so many deep-seated things in our bodies that help us, and your mind will help you too. And in those scenarios, you might not think that you would be able to stay lucid, or maybe you wouldn't, that you just succumb in a nervous wreck, but your body's amazing. And in those scenarios, she probably has something similar happen, where maybe she disassociated a bit from her body. She went to autopilot. The body was filled with endorphins and all sorts of things, and that allowed her to survive, because human beings are survivors. Like we are designed to do that. We're so good at it. It's a tool we never really use. We're like superheroes that never use our superpower. And that's why we've conquered the planet, like I said earlier. So in those scenarios, I can't imagine being there, hearing the rescuers be like, "Oh, I'm saved," and then having to leave. I think that would be a bit tough to stay positive. But you'd be surprised at the things that you're able to do given those scenarios. Scenarios. Mm-hmm.
Were there any scenarios in the book that also hit close to home? We know that, for example, across the country, gun violence is pervasive, and the threat of mass shootings continues to be a public health crisis. Are there any tips or tools that you offer for folks that may find themselves, in a situation that's yet another headline?
Yeah. So the book is mostly about ones we've covered in the podcast, which are survival stories of generally like animal attacks and natural disasters, or in extreme environments. So that's what the book covers. Personally, I found myself in a situation in Turkey a few years ago. I was camping, and some guys in the middle of the night came with guns and started shooting at me, and I had to run into the mountains. And that was definitely a survival scenario that I thought the danger would have been the guns, which of course are very dangerous, but even just running out into the cold winter and not having the correct clothing, because I was scared of what was going to happen. Like exposure is a big killer too. So in the book, we don't cover too much about events like that. But another one that's close to heart, for example, is I was in the jungles of Congo in Africa. And we were out there trying to survive with the tribe, and we got attacked by a venomous snake, a green mamba, which is a very dangerous snake. And luckily, it didn't get me. It came at me. One of the guys had a machete, bonked it on the head. And the most ironic thing is they actually ate it for dinner, because you can eat a venomous snake for dinner, because venomous and poisonous are different. If you eat something poisonous, it'll kill you, right? But if you eat something venomous, it's fine. You just don't want to inject the venom into your body. And in the book, we cover snake attacks, not that one, but ones that are a bit closer to home in the States, like what to do with a diamondback or something. And it's not suck out the poison. You want to let it bleed. And we talk about how there's different kinds of venoms. In the case of the one in Africa, it's a neurotoxin. And that one, it stops your heart and your lungs, which is very dangerous. A rattlesnake, for example, has a hemotoxin that then messes up your blood, and the clotting that can be very dangerous. There's necrotoxins that kind of pre-digest you, which is not good either. And that's what we talk about in the book too, is like if you encounter a snake and you get bit, it's really important to know what kind of snake it is. And you don't have to know that, but if you can take a photo, or if it's dead, so it bit you and you hit it, then you can bring that snake in, and then the right physicians, the people at the hospital, know which specific antivenom to give you for the specific venom that you were hit with. And a lot of snakes, they don't always inject venom. They'll bite you, and they don't always inject it. So just knowing these things allows you to just be and have more knowledge. And in these scenarios, knowledge is everything.
Mike, on a personal level, how has your family responded to your new book and your podcast? I mean, oftentimes we have experiences that where we might leave out, some of the facts when we're talking to mom or dad, right? How does your family feel learning about all of your adventures in such great detail?
Well, my dad doesn't ask, and my mom, I tell after. That's generally how it works.
Smart man. Our thanks to Mike Corey. He is host of Against the Odds podcast. And so you got to subscribe to that. And while you're at it, you got to pick up his new book, How to Survive Against the Odds, Tales and Tips for Animal Attacks and Natural Disasters. I would actually put this in the required reading category, because just listening to you talk, you never know when any of these insights is actually going to come. It's going to be helpful. It's going to save a life. And it might not even be your life. It might be somebody else's life. So thank you for your work, Mike.
No problem, man. Happy to be on here. And that's it. And maybe you won't find yourself adrift at sea or lost in the jungle, but even just going through and reading the tips and like learning about the adaptations that your body has to the cold, to the heat, to being underwater. It's really fascinating to know how amazing we are as creatures. And the book covers all that too.
Thank you, sir. We'll be sure to pick up the book and subscribe to the podcast. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, also known as AD, a type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior, making everyday tasks challenging. But did you know that Black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? There are things you can do to help reduce your risk for developing AD. Managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure is crucial. Staying physically active, maintaining social connections, eating a healthy diet, and keeping your mind engaged with activities like reading or puzzles can all contribute to brain health. It's also important to recognize some common signs and symptoms of early AD, such as forgetfulness that causes problems with everyday life, asking the same question a few times in a row, and difficulty concentrating on basic tasks. If you see these signs in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatallzearly.com. That's treatallzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, You can try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ziprecruiter.com/free right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just a quick note to all of you. If anybody is interested in going back to school or just upskilling, and if Pepperdine University's Graduate School of Education and Psychology might be on your list, I want to encourage you to go ahead and use a free fee waiver. We're waiving your application fee of $55 if you use the code word PATH to Purpose. PATH to Purpose. You use PATH to Purpose, we'll waive your application fee. In addition, you can expect to be given the highest level of consideration for a $10,000 scholarship. And so we want to make sure that we're doing our part to support folks that may be looking to upskill. Also, we want to make sure that each and every one of you come on out to our Juneteenth barbecue celebration.
Protesting anthems, yes, we chanting a movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of, it's the energy of, in memory of them that we love, the trinity of the people, the peace, the power.
In our next hour, what we're going to do is we're going to play for you a clip of Josh Hawley, Senator Josh Hawley. If you ever subscribe to 23andMe, then you're going to want to hear the story, because the folks over at 23andMe have been telling us that we get to delete our information. We control our information, all of our personal identifiable information, we control it. And if at any point, if we want out, we can have our way. Well, that's not exactly true. Today on Capitol Hill, Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri grilled the CEO of 23andMe about the topic. And it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. And it is it's another reason why we absolutely should be reading the fine print when it comes to the terms of service for any of these apps or any of these direct-to-consumer products that we might utilize. It's important that we are clear about what we're signing up for, because otherwise you end up with folks hold on to your information for a long time, and sometimes forever. He wasn't the only one that grilled the CEO of 23andMe. Representative Brandon Gill, Republican of Texas, he also grilled the 23andMe co-founder and former CEO Ann Wojcicki. That was on Tuesday, about a social media post regarding the use of pronouns and things. And so, 23andMe has become, or they're becoming, a bit of a target for the conservative movement. But look, when it comes to personal identifiable information, that's real stuff. Maybe they should be a target. Maybe they should be an example, be made an example of. And maybe we should be pushing a lot of other folks out there with consumer products like 23andMe to hold to the terms of service that we think we're signing up for. I have for a long time been uneasy about participating in 23andMe or Ancestry. I mean, who doesn't want to know information that could be life-saving, information that could illuminate some things that you may want to do or behaviors you might want to change, right? Actions you might want to take in order to live your life. Who wouldn't want to have that information? But I think it's important that we understand, well, what are the trade-offs? What are the trade-offs with seeking out that information? Fortune is reporting that dozens of states are suing to block the sale of 23andMe's genetic data after its former CEO pushes the purchase price $50 million higher. That's right, the sale of 23andMe's genetic data. It's prompted a lawsuit from not one, not two, not five, not 10, not 20, not 25, but 27 states. 27 states and the District of Columbia seeking to block the sale of genetic material that the company's collected from, get this, 15 million people. They've collected genetic data from 15 million people as a part of their operations. In the states, they argue that despite claims that they'll follow 23andMe's privacy policies, this company called Regeneron, they claim they'll follow 23andMe's privacy policies and applicable laws. Genetic data, it's too personal. It's too personal to be sold without explicit consent from 23andMe customers. Again, dozens of state attorneys general have sued to block the sale of 23andMe's genetic material, just as biotechnology companies are seeking to buy the company out of bankruptcy for hundreds of millions of dollars. This bipartisan group of 27 states and the District of Columbia, they allege that 23andMe has collected and is now looking to sell genotype data or raw genetic code from 15 million people that's paired with data on a person's physical appearance and their family tree. The news comes as the actual buyer, biotechnology company Regeneron, they're facing a bidding war with 23andMe founder Anne Wojcicki, who offered $305 million for the company through her recently founded nonprofit, TTAM Research Institute. So wait a minute. So the former CEO is trying to buy the data from her old company to go to this new nonprofit she's founded called TTAM Research Institute. Wait a minute. What's going on? Genetic data, I don't need to tell you all this. It's highly personal. And that's exactly what the states are claiming. And its sale could have ramifications for people related to 23andMe customers or their descendants. So we're not even just talking about the 23andMe customers themselves. We're talking about people that are related to them, people that are in their orbit. And heaven help us if this data gets in the hands of law enforcement. In our next hour, I want to share with you and get the hot take from our guest, civil rights attorney Todd Belcourt. Just earlier today, I was reading about how there are a number of law enforcement agencies, Secretary of State's offices are saying that there are law enforcement agencies that are using license plates readers. They're using that data illegally. So if we have to worry about states using license plate data illegally, then how do you think we should feel about our 23andMe genetic data? Just saying. We're on the case. When we come forward, we'll be talking to civil rights attorney Todd Belcourt about some of the biggest trending news of the day. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Harvey Weinstein will face a third trial after a mistrial was declared on one sexual assault charge. Black Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg and prosecutors are ready to retry the case.
After the judge declared the jury could not reach a verdict, making a third degree, we immediately informed the court